I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up. Then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
All right, welcome everyone back to our Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Lullo, of course, and I'm super pumped to be introducing our guest, Karissa Kerr. Now, Karissa, I know her as a chief operating officer. She is results-driven. She's dynamic. She has a proven ability to transform and scale businesses. She's also extremely passionate for building high-performing teams, high-performing workplace, and positive culture. And she really excels operationally, of course, with enhancing, employee experiences and ensuring customer satisfaction. Amazing, a focus on the pillars of growth, and she knows her stuff. So, by the way, Karissa, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much, Gabe. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. And, this is a Do Hard Things podcast. And, the reason why we asked you is because we've talked offline. You have a phenomenal story. But, getting to the point of chief operating officer is, we don't go to school for that, right? We don't go to school for sales. We don't go to school for, how to close deals. But, we have this career that we get into, and then all of a sudden we're, at the top of our game if you're doing it right. And you are at the top of your game. So take us through your origin story. How did you get here, and take us through it?
Absolutely. Well, I'll go back a little further into like what made me who I am today.
I love
And I do love the name of your podcast, Do Hard Things, because I think life can be hard for sure. And your work can be hard. And so I started very young, saving money for college. And looking back on it now, I realize how instrumental that was to where I am today as a COO. And so I started saving money in middle school. I learned at a very young age from my parents that I was going to have to pay my own way. I'm one of 7 children. And so I'm glad they told me early on, because I was able to save money, work many, many different types of jobs, not even realizing that those different jobs would help me doing what I'm doing today for my personal life and my professional life. So when I got to school, it was interesting because the financial aid team said that I personally made too much money over the years. And so I knew I was doing something right. And that was my start, was paying my way through school. And then I accepted a position, moved, packed up my car, moved to the bigger city. My best friend bought me a plant and I put it in my passenger seat, and I moved to the big city, and I quickly accepted a position, actually starting off as an assistant within a department. So I went from being an assistant in a department to the COO now.
That's incredible. So assistant to CEO, that's our COOs. That's amazing. So
a lot of things happened in between.
Yeah, exactly. So walk me through. I mean, what's something that is hard? Like, how can we relate to the title of our podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard? I mean, think about it, because I always say this, my friend has a roofing business, and, he can fall off a roof. Like, he's physically under the sun. He's lifting heavy things. He's always dirty at the end of the day, washing his hands before he walks in his house. Like, that's hard work, right? I have another friend of mine. He owns a restaurant. If the dishwasher's not in today, guess what? He's washing dishes. I mean, that's hard work. In our business, like, all we do is talk to people. Is it really that hard? Why is it so hard? It is hard, but why is it so hard? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it really does take, it's not only mental, but it's also physical. Many years I was a road warrior, and people would tell me, they're like, you're going to burn out, you're going to burn out. But I really have loved what I do for a living. And so I think it can be physical from the standpoint of just long days, long nights, entertaining customers, being with your team. So I think that travel component, it's not roofing by any stretch of the matter. I don't mean to make it sound like it's way too physical, but I think the reason why I am where I am today is because I roll my sleeves up and I'm willing to work alongside my team. So I'm not just the leader that just dictates orders out there. I'm really collaborative with my team, and so I think the hard work, it has been hard, but it's been very, very rewarding. And if you enjoy and love what you do, then it's not as quote unquote hard. But there's definitely some hard days for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you got to love what you do. You got to be passionate about what you do. But as the leader, you have to find passionate people too and lead them, right? So as a COO, how do you attract and retain great talent and find people that are as passionate as you are about what we're doing every day?
Yeah, I know many people, they'll just look at someone's pedigree and that'll be their entryway into a company. And I've actually really taken the approach of looking at the person. And so some of the people that I've hired over the years, my manager or my boss will say, yeah, but they don't have as much experience, or they don't have this background, or they didn't go to this Ivy League school, or they haven't had this experience. And actually, they've been some of my top performers, the people that I really fought for to bring on board. They've been top performers. And I think there's several different attributes that they've had that I would summarize as: they have the fire in the belly, they are very persuasive and persistent. So it's not being aggressive, but it's being more assertive. And of course, they have the intellectual capability of doing the job. That's just ground zero. You have to have that. But I think it's the passion in the belly, the fire in the belly, the desire, and the want to learn and to develop as a person. Some of those things you cannot train. Work ethic, someone who has a strong work ethic, there's certain things you cannot train, so they have to have some of the basics in order to come on board with my team.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So that's a great way to find somebody. How do you keep them right now? Culture and environment, right? An ecosystem. Those are buzzwords. Every time I'm in a final interview with a candidate to work here, I always ask them this question at the end, like, what questions do you have for us? And I think almost 100% of the time they're asking about our culture because it's so important to the candidate. I think that's the case now in 2025 more than ever before. So two questions. How do you feel about the importance of culture and environment in a company? And is there things or strategies that you're working on right now or things that you're doing to help foster that? We'd love to hear it.
Culture is everything, and I'm thrilled to hear that more and more people are taking it seriously, because I think there was a time where companies would write their mission statement, right? They would have their values, but it was something that they would put on a wall in a conference room, when customers were there. It wasn't necessarily walking the talk. And so it's thrilling to hear that more and more people are like, okay, really, what is the culture like? Like, day in and day out in the daily grind, what is the culture like? So I think it's everything. And I think to retain people, in my opinion, you have to look at the whole person. So often people will just say, okay, this is what you do for us as for the company. This is what you do every day. But really, it's learning about how they spend their whole entire day, whether it's at work or at home, making sure that they have that healthy environment, because that's going to dictate how successful they are at work. So I think sometimes we have to dig a little deeper and understanding the whole person and what their needs are. And I have a lot of different experiences where people have shared things with me, and I've been able to help them, and that's helped their success in their role,
That's
and
awesome.
receive promotions, and they're off and running.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you guys hybrid, working in office, working remote? What's your environment look like?
So the company was 100% in office, and then through the pandemic went through a remote environment, where a large percentage was remote, and now it's really that hybrid approach. I have worked for organizations where I've been 100% remote, and my team has been in office, so I've done it that way. And then I've also been in an office environment for short periods of time as well.
I know it's pretty controversial for some, but what are your thoughts? I mean, are
Yeah.
you willing to share your thoughts on what the right way to do it is, or what the best way to do it is?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics because I think people get set in their ways, and they're like, I have to see that person. They have to be right in front of me, or they have to be right next to me. They get set in their ways. And I think what I've learned is I have um, a boss who has always had people around him in person. And someone said, "Well, what's it like to work with Karissa being being remote?" And he said, "I'm actually closer with her than sometimes I am with people in the office." I think it's really about taking down those barriers with over Zoom and over the web. Is you really have to have in-depth conversations and deep conversations, not just superficial. And I think that's important to periodically, of course, be together in person, face to face. So you have that quarterly meeting or that monthly meeting where you're together face to face. But it's really digging deep and getting to know that person. Um, I believe we are working with remote teams for the bulk of my career. Um, is that making sure you have the right things in place to communicate together, to work together, the right performance metrics, because there's certain things that you could be working side by side in an office, and you don't really know what that person is doing in that office next to you. So it's really about having that relationship and having the right metrics, the right KPIs in place.
Yeah, you're talking my language, and I know you and I operate the same way when it comes to data-driven decisions, right? So
Yes.
you have understanding the person, understanding the people. You have to obviously create a culture, but then you have numbers, right? So it's hard to balance both, right? Where you have people, you have circumstance, you have scenarios, but at the end of the day, my mentor told me a long time ago, is like, see this little box? We have to fit a number in this box, not 7 paragraphs about why we didn't hit that specific number. So how do you set up process procedures to create an environment where data is what's driving the decision making of the organization?
Well, I think I learned early on that, oftentimes you can pull a lot of data and you can get the data to tell different stories. And so I believe in looking at data from all angles. So it's not just the top down data driven, but it's also getting that data from the bottom up. So throughout the organization, and then piecing it together to understand the real truth.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think about collaboration right now online? Social media is obviously growing exponentially. We're in this what we call the TikTok generation of the world. LinkedIn is becoming more and more video content driven than just a bunch of resumes, like it used to be. What are your thoughts about content, social networking, the new way of collaboration for companies such as yours?
Yeah. People are looking for, and I'm talking in general terms now, people are looking for community. They want to be a part of a group. So I think a company that can foster that sense of community, whether it's online or in person, is critical. And there's such great tools now, there's such great technology out there to make it very personable when you're online and you're on video. And so I think technology has come a long way. I remember a joke that was being passed around of like what it was like to dial into a meeting or to join a meeting. And they're like, they're buffering and all these things that used to be a challenge. And a lot of that has gone away. So I think it's creating that sense of community, not only with the leadership team, but peer to peer. Because at some point that individual has to be self-motivated. It's not for everyone. Some people, they cannot do it. They've tried and they cannot do it. You need that person that's going to be also self-motivated as well. And that's going to want to join online and have that community.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you see any emerging trends right now that really can help with organizational development or operations that you're seeing or paying attention to right now?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I've been thinking about, and one is how we learn. And so, there's a time period where people go to a course and they take a course, or they go online and take a master class. And this, I'm sure better than anyone. If you don't actually implement what you've learned, it just goes out the window, and you're like, oh, that was an event. So I think it's taking the learning that it's not an event, and that it's in your DNA, it's in your ongoing where you're implementing it. You're, as a leader, you're working with your team, you're following up with them about what they're learning, and that you're taking it into the day to day, so that it's not that you have to go to a full week training, but that you can do it in sound bites. And I think that's where social media comes into play. That's where online comes into play, where you could take 10 minutes, read something, and then share that article, or read a book and share that book with your peers and talk about it during your meetings. I've done meetings where the first 10 minutes we talk about what we've learned, or the last 10 minutes we've talked about what we've implemented. So taking it out of just the daily tasks, and more about using this technology and this online platform and social media to really learn. So if there's something you're searching for, going out on LinkedIn, going out on Instagram, TikTok, you can find it very, very quickly, and you can find several opinions on that topic. And then you have AI, which is a whole other dynamic, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that was literally my next question. Like,
Oh, really?
I got to ask you. I don't think I've done a podcast where the AI conversation hasn't started or at least come up. So, yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Right? There's a lot of different tools out there. There's a lot of investments happening. There's a lot of companies over promising, under delivering. There's companies saying, salespeople are completely going to be replaced by AI, and so there's a lot of various opinions. I won't tell you mine, and I'll have you share yours first, but it's your show. But what are your thoughts about it? And is there stuff out there right now that you're excited about?
I think using AI for the good, you don't have to use AI for the evil. AI for the good means there's things that we do in our day that actually we as humans probably don't need to do. And AI can make it much easier, faster, more efficient. So if you have certain things that you do, let's say like writing a job description, just as an example, where normally you would sit there and pound it out and write out that job description. Now you can have tools like AI that can help you on that everyday task that you normally would do. That should free up your time to spend on more strategic, more visionary, more execution driven tasks. AI should be freeing up your time to spend on things that you do need a human for. I don't think AI is going to replace salespeople 100%. People enjoy being with other people. I think it's just using our time in a better way.
Right, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. So, 2025, there's a resurgence of bootstrapping. There's not as much free money available. VC firms aren't investing, PE firms aren't investing as much. What do you think operationally, COOs could be thinking about and looking
Yeah.
at to help really navigate these kind of turbulent waters that we see ourselves in a little bit?
That's a great point, and I think it's really about relentless prioritization. There's so many things we could be doing in business and in different industries. You could be doing 40 different things. You really have to narrow it down to that top 3 priorities, and making sure that your organization is on board with those priorities, or it's never going to work. So I think that less money that's being offered means that the way you spend your money is critical. So spending your money, which is time, on the right priorities is key. And if you're looking at investing, which in several of my roles, we've invested in technology and run, technology programs. And so with those projects, making sure that you're just not looking for the quick hit. Like, I think sometimes people are like, oh, I'm going to invest in a CRM, and then it's going to save me a bunch of money, and we're all going to be better off, with our customers. And it's really not about just putting out that money and that technology is making sure that's the right technology for your company, right? There's a lot of choices out there. It doesn't mean that that investment is going to have a return. The ROI might not be immediate. So, really looking at some of your investments for the long term and what it's going to do for your company to put you ahead of the game over the competitors in the long run, over the long term is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to your point, companies right now, especially those bootstrapped companies, they're just trying to make those decisions that are, 30, 90 days out and see the impact then. How do you prioritize that long term, ensuring the long term success? Is it just perspective? Is it you have to make those decisions while you're helping out or the very immediate decisions as well? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, really understanding where you want your company to be over time, I think helps that decision. And I think tying your two questions together is really important because when you look at that investment that you're making, is making sure that that you have realistic expectations. And so when you look at what the competition is doing out there, you might be able to, as an organization, be able to bring in a new revenue stream. It's like just because other companies are doing the same thing you might be doing, you can be doing it better. And knowing like how many customers and clients do you need to be successful? So you don't need everybody in the whole wide world. You need your set of customers, whether you're cross-selling, you're upselling. So looking at your different revenue streams, I think is really, really important.
Yeah,
And so it might be branching out into new ventures
for
and
sure.
partnerships. If you're not getting the funding that you need, I think creating that strategic partnership is another way of doing it. There's a lot of, when you look at employees, there's a lot of fractional work being done out there as well. So you might be able to save money having a fractional CMO or a fractional COO, where you can invest elsewhere in your company if it's not a full-time person coming on board.
It's funny how words change the way you look at something, right? It's
Yes.
when you say the word outsourcing, which that's what we do, we're an outsourced SDR agency. Outsourcing in our world or the way I look at it, my perspective is like a bad word, right? But when you see fractional, it's like a good word. So they turn, it's the same thing, right? You know what I mean? When you're bringing in a consultant, is another
Yeah.
way of looking at it. So I do again. I see fractional COOs, I see fractional CMOs, I see fractional CROs. There's a huge resurgence in that. What are your thoughts about just external partners, whether it's them or even just companies that are just an outsourced partner? How are your thoughts about working and collaborating with consultants or outsourced agencies or fractional individuals now than ever before?
Yeah, the alignment between the person who's outsourced or the fractional person, having that alignment is they can put a beautiful strategic plan together. It could be fantastic. But if your organization doesn't have the resources and the tools to execute, it's that really superior execution that is going to be necessary. So not just having someone that's outsourced putting a plan together. I believe that they have to be involved in the implementation and the execution and the ongoing management. So I don't know if I completely answered your question, but I think,
I love the answer. So yeah, you did.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's not just about bringing in, to your point, a quick fix. I think
yeah,
people, when they look at fractionalizing or outsourcing, they look at it as a silver bullet where it
hmm
needs to be brought in as a long-term decision. And I think that's the key to anything successfully. Like you have to really look at the long-term gain here, even though you obviously need some short-term successes.
they can have incredible knowledge and an unbelievable resume of experience, but if they don't fit your culture, or if you need them more of a full time, I think it's really understanding whether you can go fractional or you need them full time, because your team needs them full time as part of the culture. So, and I think they have to be aligned with your culture as well. Because if they're a different type of person, then you might be investing in something that's not going to come to fruition and not have a good ROI, a positive ROI.
Awesome. Well, Carissa, this has been amazing. How do people get a hold of you, and what are the types of relationships you're looking to foster right now for for your business and in your career?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they definitely can get a hold of me through LinkedIn, Karissa Kerr. I'm also on Instagram as well. Luckily, my name is somewhat unique. So the Karissa Kerr works out pretty well. So they can get a hold of me there. I'm happy to pass along my contact information as well. My email is my name as well. So that works out really well too, with Karissa Kerr at Gmail. And your second part of your question was?
What type of people that you would like to network and collaborate with in our audience?
Yeah. People that definitely love, because I have a sales marketing background coupled with operations, and I really wanted to make those typically two separate groups of an organization be in harmony. And that's what led me to operations, is like, okay, let's be in harmony. I have this background, now let me take that knowledge over the operations side. So I enjoy connecting with people that love the operation side, but also have a really good respect for the sales and marketing side as well. So definitely entrepreneurs. I love connecting with entrepreneurial spirit, as well as people in different corporations.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We appreciate our collaboration, and awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.